Hey man, here's the thing. Most women won't ever admit. When a woman loses a good man, that regret doesn't disappear. It buries itself deep, waiting to surface in the quiet moments when no one's watching. It doesn't hit right away. At first, she feels relief, freedom. She convinces herself she made the right choice, that maybe she needed something more exciting, more spontaneous, more emotionally thrilling. She tells her friends she's fine, posts pictures that scream independence, and pretends she's glowing. But deep down, it's all smoke. Because beneath that illusion of freedom sits a truth that time will eventually force her to face. She didn't lose a man, she lost peace. She didn't walk away from boredom, she walked away from security. She didn't outgrow him, she outplayed herself. At first, she can't see it because her ego is louder than her heart. It whispers, "You deserve better," even when she had everything she needed. It tells her that the grass will be greener somewhere else, that she can find a stronger, more confident version of you out there. And for a while, she believes it. She dates around, entertains attention, enjoys the novelty of being wanted again. But eventually, that illusion fades, because excitement burns out fast. And when the smoke clears, all she finds are men who can't handle silence, can't stay grounded, can't lead with patience. That's when she starts to remember you, the quiet strength, the consistency, the way you made her feel safe without words, the way your presence alone anchored her chaos. And that realization doesn't just sting, it haunts. You see, women rarely regret losing the wrong man. They regret losing the man who treated them right when they were too immature to recognize what that meant. The kind of man who didn't fight to dominate her, but to understand her. The man who didn't run from her emotions, but calmly stood still in front of them. She remembers that man when the world around her starts to feel loud again, when every new guy makes her more anxious instead of more peaceful. That's when it dawns on her that good men aren't boring, they're rare. They don't try to impress you with chaos, they lead with calmness. They don't make you question your worth, they help you find it. And once a woman has experienced that kind of presence, no amount of fun or flirtation can replace it. The haunting starts slowly, a song, a scent, a moment of silence where your name suddenly crosses her mind for no reason. She won't admit it to anyone, not even to herself, but she'll feel it. That tightness in her chest when she remembers how easy things used to feel with you. The comfort of not having to overthink every word. The way you didn't play games, didn't keep score, didn't make her beg for attention. She'll remember the times you were patient with her moods, the way you always tried to make things right, even when she was the one who started the storm. And that's when the guilt starts to grow, because she knows now, she was loved by a man who didn't deserve the way she treated him. But here's the cruel irony. Regret doesn't show up when it's useful. It arrives when it's too late. She doesn't start missing you when you're still reaching out. She starts missing you when your silence becomes permanent. When she checks your profile and sees peace instead of pain. When she realizes you're not angry anymore, you're over it. That's when panic sets in. Because women expect men to chase. They expect tears, pleas, long messages. But when a man simply detaches, truly detaches, that's when she realizes she's lost something she'll never find again. Not because you're irreplaceable, but because your type of love can't be bought, forced, or faked. You either recognize it when you have it, or you spend the rest of your life chasing its ghost. And she'll chase that ghost in subtle ways. She'll find men who remind her of you, a tone, a gesture, a calmness in the eyes. But none of them will feel right, because what she's looking for isn't you exactly. It's the version of herself she was when she was with you. The version that felt safe, respected, cherished. The version that could be soft without fear. And the tragedy is that she can't access that anymore. Because once a woman destroys the sanctuary, a good man built for her, she doesn't just lose him, she loses the version of herself that existed inside his love. That's why her regret cuts deeper than heartbreak. It's not about losing you, it's about losing who she was when she had you. Meanwhile, you've changed too. The pain that once consumed you became the fuel for your growth. You learned that being a good man doesn't mean saving everyone. It means protecting your peace, even from those you love. You realize that sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You stopped chasing explanations and started mastering silence, and that silence became magnetic. You began to heal, rebuild, evolve. You stopped searching for validation in broken people and started finding meaning in solitude. And that transformation is what breaks her the most. Because when she finally looks back, she doesn't see the man she left. She sees the man she created through her absence. The man who found peace without her chaos. There's something haunting about watching someone you once had grow into everything you always wanted without you. That's the punishment life gives to those who play with something pure. And it's not revenge, it's balance. Because you were her peace, and she mistook it for boredom. You were her stability, and she called it control. You were her truth, and she ran toward illusion. And now she's surrounded by the very noise she once claimed to crave. Attention, flattery, meaningless connection. Yet all it does is remind her of what real felt like. She'll scroll through your pictures, smile at your growth, and whisper to herself, "He looks so happy now." But behind that smile hides a sharp sting. The awareness that she doesn't get to be part of your story anymore. She might try to convince herself that you've changed, that you're colder now, more distant, maybe even arrogant. But deep down, she knows the truth. You haven't become colder, you've become calm. You no longer react because peace has become more valuable than winning arguments. You no longer chase because you've learned the difference between love and attachment. You no longer beg to be understood because you understand yourself now. That's what scares her. Your independence. Because when she left, she thought she was leaving a man who needed her. But when she sees how effortlessly you've moved on, she realizes she was never your source of strength. You were hers. And that truth, it hits harder than any heartbreak. So when people say she'll regret it one day, believe them. It might not be loud or dramatic, but it will happen. Slowly, quietly, painfully. It'll happen when she's lying next to someone who doesn't really see her. When she scrolls past your face and feels that familiar ache, when she hears your name in conversation and her heart skips just enough to remind her she lost something sacred, not because she couldn't have it, but because she wasn't ready for it. You see, a good man doesn't just leave a void, he leaves a standard. And once that standard is set, no one else ever truly measures up. That's the regret that never dies. It doesn't scream, it lingers, and it follows her long after you've forgotten what her voice even sounds like. As time drags on, she'll start to understand that the world doesn't hand out second chances for free. The universe has a cruel but poetic way of teaching lessons. It lets her watch you evolve from the sidelines. She'll see you start winning quietly, not out of revenge, but because peace always attracts success. You'll glow differently, carry yourself differently, and suddenly your energy won't just be masculine, it'll be magnetic. And that realization will break her, not because she wants to own your light, but because she knows she dimmed it once. She'll remember the nights you tried to make things work, the words you never said out of respect, the effort you gave when she gave none, every ignored text, every cold glance, every emotional wall she built. They all come back now as scenes she replays in her head, wishing she could step back in time and choose differently. But she can't, and that's what truly haunts her. It's not that you're gone, it's that she'll never again be the woman you once looked at, like she was the only one. You see, regret isn't loud at first. It whispers. It visits her when she least expects it, on calm Sunday mornings, during long drives, or in moments of stillness when life feels too quiet. It comes disguised as nostalgia, but it carries a sting that won't fade. She'll start to question herself, not just as a partner, but as a person. Why did I walk away from someone who never hurt me? Why did I test the love of the one man who never made me feel unsafe? And those questions won't have answers, because in truth, she didn't lose you because of something you did wrong. She lost you because of something she couldn't fix within herself. She wanted chaos because peace terrified her. She wanted validation because self-worth was foreign to her. And now, every man she meets will remind her of what she destroyed. Not because they're cruel, but because none of them carry the calm assurance you once did. She'll feel that absence in ways she can't describe, like a song missing its melody. Over time, she'll realize that your kind of love was rare, too rare. The type that didn't demand attention but commanded respect. The kind that didn't need to be loud to be felt. When she remembers you, she won't remember grand gestures or drama. She'll remember the small things, the way you listened without interrupting, the way your silence made her feel safe, the way you never competed with her energy but balanced it, Those memories will hit her hardest on the nights she can't sleep, when her phone stays quiet and her heart feels heavy. Because the truth is, good men don't chase, they build. And she'll look around one day, surrounded by shallow connections, realizing that she traded foundation for fireworks. It'll dawn on her that she left a home to wander through hotel rooms of temporary affection. And the cruelest part is, she won't even know where to start rebuilding what she broke. Because the man who once would have helped her heal is gone. That's when she starts to romanticize the very things she once took for granted. Your predictability, your consistency, your patience, all the things she once called boring will now seem divine. She'll remember how you never shouted during arguments, how your calm frustrated her because it exposed her own chaos. She'll remember how you didn't match her emotional outbursts, but stood grounded, giving her space to return to reason. And in hindsight, that's when she'll finally see the difference between a boy who wants attention and a man who offers direction. But it'll be too late, because by the time she matures enough to understand what real masculinity looks like, you'll have mastered detachment. You'll no longer feel anger or even sadness, just distance. And that distance will terrify her more than your silence ever did. Because it means you've outgrown the need to be understood by someone who never tried to understand you. Eventually, she'll try to fill the void with distractions, new faces, new places, maybe even new love. But no matter how much she tries to convince herself that she's moved on, it'll never feel quite right. Because love built on comparison is hollow. Every new man will feel like a placeholder, not a partner. And deep down, she'll know why. Because when a woman loses a man who truly loved her, she doesn't just lose affection, she loses alignment. The rhythm of her life changes. The peace that once grounded her is gone. It's like trying to sleep in a house where the hum of the old heater is missing. The silence feels wrong. That's what losing a good man does. It doesn't destroy her immediately, it erodes her slowly. Every small inconvenience, every emotional imbalance, every argument with someone new will quietly whisper, "You had better," and no matter how hard she tries to silence that voice, it will always find her in moments of truth. And here's the hardest pill she'll swallow. She didn't lose you because someone else was better. She lost you because she stopped being the woman who deserved you. That realization is brutal, because it forces her to confront the fact that she didn't just lose a man, she lost her reflection. When she was with you, she saw herself through your respect, your patience, your belief in her. You made her want to be better. But when she chose to walk away, she also walked away from that version of herself. That's why the regret cuts deeper than heartbreak. It's not about missing you, it's about missing the woman she was when you loved her. And no matter how much she grows or heals, that version of her will never come back. Because the kind of love that pulls that out of someone only happens once, and she destroyed it thinking there'd be more. Years later, when she's finally settled, maybe even with someone else, there'll be moments when the past creeps in. Maybe it's a random memory, how you held her hand without needing to say anything, or how your voice sounded when you said, "It's okay." She'll remember the way your eyes softened when she was overthinking, how your silence felt like safety, how your presence made her forget the world outside. Those memories will strike her, not because she wants you back, but because she now knows she'll never feel that again. What she mistook for ordinary was actually rare. What she dismissed as predictable was actually loyalty. And that's when it hits her, the realization that love without effort isn't boring, it's safe. And that safety is what she'll spend the rest of her life trying to find again. You, on the other hand, will have long moved past the pain. You'll look back with a kind of detached gratitude, not for what happened, but for what it taught you. You'll understand that losing her wasn't your downfall, it was your evolution, because it forced you to choose yourself for the first time. You stopped measuring your worth by someone else's emotional availability. You started prioritizing peace over passion, alignment over attachment. And now you're the man she always said she wanted, but not for her anymore, for yourself. That's the twist. Life writes best. The man who once begged for her attention becomes the man who no longer needs anyone's approval. You turned heartbreak into a mirror that reflected the best version of you, while she turned comfort into a memory she'll never escape. As the years pass, her regret won't fade. It'll mature. It'll transform from sharp pain into quiet melancholy. She'll smile when she hears your name, but her chest will tighten. She'll pretend she's happy for you, but her heart will whisper a truth. She'll never say out loud, "He was the one who would have stayed." She'll see glimpses of you in other men, but it'll never feel right, because no one else will ever treat her with that same unspoken grace, the kind that makes her feel safe without being controlled, loved without being worshipped, respected without being tested. You'll become her what if, the benchmark that every future relationship subconsciously competes with. And while you'll be free, she'll be haunted, not by your absence, but by her own inability to appreciate presence when it was given freely. In the end, she'll learn the lesson that every woman who loses a good man eventually learns that real love isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. That passion fades, but presence endures. That looks change, but loyalty doesn't. And that once you've had a man who truly understood peace, you'll never be satisfied with anyone who thrives on chaos. You see, she thought she'd find someone better, but what she'll discover is that better doesn't mean happier, it just means different, and different doesn't mean deeper. So while she lives surrounded by noise, you'll live surrounded by calm. And that's the irony of it all. The man she once took for granted becomes the man she can't forget, while the woman she once thought she could live without becomes a stranger in your memory. That's not revenge, that's justice. Quiet, poetic justice. Over time, her regret evolves from emotional pain into a psychological loop she can't escape. Every new connection she tries to form ends up circling back to you in some subtle way. It's not that she's obsessed, it's that her mind recognizes something's missing, something she once had and didn't value. She'll find men who look better, make more money, talk smoother, but none of them will feel like you. The peace, the grounding, the safety of your energy, it's gone. You were her emotional gravity, and without it, every new relationship feels unstable. She won't say this out loud, but deep down she knows it. Every new beginning reminds her of how carelessly she ended the best chapter of her life. And that quiet awareness becomes a form of punishment she can't shake, because, unlike heartbreak, regret has no closure. It's not about losing love, it's about realizing you were love. And as she watches you move on, she'll experience a new kind of pain, one that isn't about jealousy, but contrast. She'll see that you didn't just survive losing her, you thrived, that your glow isn't revenge, it's rebirth. You started taking care of yourself in ways she never imagined. You became the version of you she always said she wanted, but she wasn't patient enough to wait for. And that's the irony. She left thinking she'd find better, but in doing so, she became the very reason you became better. You leveled up not to win her back, but because you finally stopped fighting for someone who couldn't meet you halfway. And while she'll never say it, she'll know deep down she was the test, not the destination. Her loss became your transformation. In quiet moments, she'll replay the way you used to look at her, with warmth, admiration, and trust. No man looks at her that way now. Not because she isn't beautiful, but because something in her changed the moment she lost your respect. She learned the hard way that beauty might attract men, but peace keeps them. You gave her both, and she traded it for thrill. That thrill died fast. And now, every new man who enters her life reminds her how rare it is to be genuinely cherished. You see, what haunts her isn't that you left, it's that she taught you how to. She pushed and tested and assumed you'd never walk away until you did. And now her mind replays every moment leading up to that silence, like a movie she wishes she could rewrite. But the ending never changes. You're gone. And yet, your absence will do something profound. It will make her question everything she once believed about men, love, and herself. She'll start to see that good men don't disappear because they stop caring. They disappear because they finally understand. She'll realize that love without effort isn't sustainable, that attention without depth is empty, and that no amount of validation can fill the space left by real emotional security. You were her grounding, but she mistook it for control. You were her mirror, but she looked away when it reflected her flaws. And now, as she matures, she'll recognize that she wasn't ready for the kind of man who didn't need to be the center of attention, he just needed to be seen. But by the time she finally opens her eyes, all she'll see is distance. And that distance, that's the price of awakening too late. She'll start to romanticize your silence, the way you didn't beg, didn't argue, didn't try to prove your worth one last time. That silence will haunt her more than any angry words ever could, because silence means finality. it means acceptance. It means a man has found peace in losing her. And that realization breaks something inside her that no one else can fix. She'll realize you weren't just another man. You were the moment she was supposed to evolve. And instead of rising with you, she chose ego. She chose to test your patience, to provoke your emotions, to gamble your loyalty. And when you stopped playing, she lost more than your love. She lost the version of herself that felt worthy of it. Now her pride keeps her quiet, but her mind keeps replaying the story, not the ending, the moment she felt you pull away, because that's when she knew she had already lost. By now, you'll have grown into a man so centered, so calm, that nothing external can shake you. You've learned the art of detachment, not from bitterness, but from understanding that not everyone deserves access to your energy. You'll attract new people, new experiences, maybe even new love, but it'll all come from a place of abundance, not lack. You'll love differently now, not to complete someone, but to complement them. You'll no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. You'll recognize peace as the true measure of connection. And while you move with quiet confidence, she'll watch, wishing she could rewind to the moment before her pride got in the way. Because deep down she knows, if she had matched your calm instead of fighting it, she'd still have your presence instead of your memory. The haunting doesn't stop as time passes, it deepens. It turns from emotional longing into existential regret, because at some point she'll realize that losing you wasn't just about losing love, it was about losing alignment with something divine. You were the mirror that showed her who she could be if she chose growth over games. You were the reminder that not all men are meant to be conquered, some are meant to be followed into peace. And when she lost that, she lost more than a relationship, she lost her balance. Every argument she starts now, every wall she builds, every man she mistrusts, it all traces back to the one connection she couldn't handle with maturity. You became the silent proof that love doesn't die when it ends, it echoes, and she'll keep hearing that echo for years, long after you've forgotten the sound of her voice. What makes her regret unbearable is that you never sought revenge. You didn't post subliminals, you didn't badmouth her, you didn't try to make her jealous, you simply disappeared into your purpose. That's what separates men who are lost from men who are found. You didn't move on fast, you moved on right. And when she finally realizes that your detachment wasn't a performance, but a permanent shift, that's when the truth sinks in. You weren't trying to get over her, you were becoming someone she'd never get back. Your growth became the karma she didn't see coming, because every time she checks your life, it reflects the peace she threw away. Every time she sees your smile, it reminds her that she was the chaos in your calm. And every time she feels lonely, she realizes that peace with you was the only place she ever truly belonged. Eventually, her regret turns inward. She starts trying to change, to become softer, calmer, more appreciative. But growth born from regret isn't healing, it's repentance. It's her soul, trying to undo what her ego destroyed. She'll start reading about emotional maturity, watching videos about attachment, talking about self-awareness. But deep down, she'll know she didn't need to learn how to love. She just needed to stop testing love that already existed. That's what she'll never forgive herself for, because she'll realize that you weren't perfect, but you were present, and presence is what every woman claims to want, until she meets a man who offers it without condition. Then she panics, then she runs, then, years later, she wishes she hadn't. Because the one thing she'll never find again isn't your love, it's your patience. And one day, much later in her life when she's older and quieter, she'll look back and smile at the thought of you. Not because she wants you back, but because she finally understands what she lost. She'll remember your kindness, your consistency, your calm. She'll realize that real love isn't found in intensity, it's built in peace. That good men don't always come wrapped in fireworks, they come as stability, presence, and quiet loyalty. You were that man, you always were. She just couldn't see it through the lens of her own chaos. But life has a way of revealing the truth. And now she knows, she didn't just lose a good man, she lost her chance at emotional safety. And that, my friend, is the regret that never fades. It doesn't scream, it doesn't chase, it lingers, like your silence, like your calm, like the ghost of the man she thought would always wait. As the years stretch on, her life will seem full from the outside. Relationships, responsibilities, maybe even success. But deep down, she'll know there's a hollow space that never got filled. It's not about wanting you back anymore. It's about what you represented. You were her emotional compass, her calm in the storm, the person who saw through her defenses without judgment. Every man after you will demand something from her: validation, submission, drama. But you were different. You didn't demand, you led. And when she thinks back, that's what she misses most. The way you guided her through her own chaos without controlling her. The way your silence taught her more than words ever could. She'll realize that you weren't trying to win her, you were trying to understand her. And when she threw that away, she didn't just lose love, she lost a mirror that reflected her potential. Her friends won't know the full story. They'll only see the version of her she chooses to show. The strong, independent woman who learned from her mistakes. But late at night, when no one's around, she'll have moments where the mask slips. She'll think about how easy everything was with you, how you never needed to prove anything, how your energy didn't drain her but stabilized her. And in that stillness, she'll admit something she's never said out loud. She didn't leave because she didn't love you. She left because she couldn't handle being loved by you. Because your consistency exposed her instability. Your peace made her confront her chaos. And instead of rising to meet you there, she ran back to what felt familiar: unpredictability. But the problem with chasing chaos is once you've tasted peace, nothing else ever satisfies again. Meanwhile, your life will have taken on a rhythm that feels natural, not forced, not performative. You'll start to attract things that align with your new energy. Opportunities flow, your mind clears, your relationships feel lighter. That's the strange reward of letting go with grace. The universe replaces what you lost with everything you were meant for. And that's when you truly stop caring about whether she regrets it or not, because you'll see the bigger truth. You didn't lose her, you outgrew her. The man you are now wouldn't even fit in the life you had then. You'll look back at her, not with resentment, but with quiet gratitude, because her leaving forced you to finally meet yourself. And once a man knows his worth, no woman can make him question it again. But for her, that realization cuts differently. She'll try to rebuild, to show she's changed, but deep down she'll know it's not enough, because healing that comes from regret always carries residue. She'll meet new men and tell herself, I won't mess it up this time. But her heart will know she already did, with you. She'll replay the moments where you were patient, where you tried to reach her, where you gave her one more chance to open up, and she'll see how she dismissed it all. The texts she ignored, the calls she didn't return, the cold tone she used to test you. Each memory will replay like a mirror held up to her pride, and in that reflection, she'll see not the strong woman she pretended to be, but the scared one, the one who ruined the only relationship that ever truly challenged her to grow. Eventually, she'll stop pretending. The facade of confidence will fade. The idea that she chose better will dissolve, because the truth always catches up, even if it takes years. She'll start to see that no man she meets ever loved her without an angle. Every relationship will come with conditions, with hidden motives, with emotional games, and that's when she'll finally understand what made you different. You didn't love her for who she could be. You loved her for who she was and who she was becoming. That kind of acceptance is rare. It's what every woman craves, but few can reciprocate. And now that she's older, she'll know she had it, and she destroyed it. Not because she was evil, but because she wasn't ready for something that real. What she won't realize is that your absence changed her far more than your presence ever did. Because when a good man walks away, it forces a woman to face her reflection without safety nets. She can't distract herself forever. Sooner or later, she'll realize that the pain she blamed on you wasn't caused by your love. It was caused by her inability to receive it. And that's what haunts her the most. You didn't break her, you revealed her. You showed her what unconditional affection feels like, and what it costs to lose it. And when she finally meets another man who's calm, patient, stable, she won't trust it. Because now she knows that even good men leave when they're taken for granted. And that fear will follow her into every future relationship. But here's the twist. Your silence, your growth, your detachment, it doesn't just punish her, it teaches her, because you didn't leave in anger, you left with understanding, and understanding carries power. You showed her what true masculine energy feels like, not through dominance, but through discipline. You didn't scream your worth, you demonstrated it, and now whenever she thinks of you, she'll remember the man who didn't fight for attention, who didn't beg for love, who didn't lose his composure. You became her lesson in restraint, her reminder that a man's value isn't proven by what he chases, but by what he walks away from. One day, she'll see you again, maybe through mutual friends, maybe online, maybe in person, and it'll hit her harder than she expects. You won't look angry, you won't look bitter, you'll look free. That freedom will burn her more than your love ever did. Because in that moment, she'll realize you didn't just move on, you transcended. The man she once knew as emotional, devoted, endlessly forgiving, now stands still, unbothered, unshakable. You're no longer seeking closure because you already created it. And she'll feel it, that invisible shift, the energy that says, you no longer live here, and that will break her in a way that no words could, because there's no way to argue with peace. As time continues, her life will circle back to everything she once resisted: stability, loyalty, quiet love. But when it finally arrives, she won't feel ready, because now she carries the memory of losing it once. She'll try to convince herself that this new man will be different, but he won't be you. He'll have his own rhythm, his own flaws, his own limitations. And while she'll learn to appreciate him, there will always be a quiet comparison in the back of her mind. She'll think about how you would have handled things differently, calmer, wiser, softer. She'll realize that your love wasn't dramatic because it didn't need to be. It was real. And once a woman experiences real, everything else feels rehearsed. By the time she finally understands all this, you'll be gone so far down your own path that her name won't even echo in your mind anymore. You'll have built something better, a life of clarity, focus, purpose, maybe even a love that doesn't need to prove itself. And that's what truly ends the story. Not revenge, not karma, just peace. Because peace is the only ending strong men write. While she's still replaying memories, you'll be too busy creating new ones. You'll have learned the greatest truth of all, that sometimes losing her was the only way to find you. And that's the moment her regret becomes permanent, because deep down, she'll finally understand she wasn't replaced, she was released. As the silence stretches across the years, she'll start realizing that closure doesn't come from conversations, but from acceptance. She'll scroll through old photos, stare at old messages, and feel something she hasn't felt in a long time: genuine remorse. Not the kind that begs for a second chance, but the kind that quietly breaks her from the inside out, because now she knows that the damage wasn't done the day she left. It was done slowly, through neglect, through pride, through moments when she chose ego over connection. She'll finally understand what you meant when you stopped explaining, when you start trying to fix what she kept breaking, and that understanding will hurt more than heartbreak itself, because she'll see clearly, for the first time, that you were never the problem. You were the lesson. Meanwhile, your life will be defined by calm, that unshakable, masculine calm that doesn't need validation or revenge. You'll wake up in peace, sleep in peace, and exist in peace. You'll start to feel how light life becomes when you stop trying to prove your worth to people who were blind to it. You'll notice how your energy attracts new things, better opportunities, deeper connections, people who match your frequency instead of draining it. And you'll look back not with pain, but with a kind of spiritual detachment. You'll see her not as the one who broke you, but as the one who built you. Because the man you are now, grounded, disciplined, emotionally sovereign, was born from the ashes of what she couldn't handle. She was the storm that forged your stillness, and that's why you'll never regret it, no matter how much it hurt. She, on the other hand, will keep meeting men who remind her of you, but only in fragments. One might have your confidence, but not your depth. Another might have your humor, but not your strength. And every time she tries to convince herself she's moved on, she'll be reminded that she hasn't, not really. Because no one has ever looked at her the way you did, with that quiet knowing that saw straight through her defenses. You didn't just love her, you understood her. You saw her brokenness, and chose compassion over criticism. And now, every man who comes after will feel shallow by comparison. That's the curse of losing a real man. Not that you miss his presence, but that you can't forget his peace. Over time, she'll realize that peace isn't something you find. It's something you lose when you chase the wrong things. She thought she wanted excitement, freedom, attention, but all those things came with emptiness. And the deeper that emptiness grew, the louder your memory became. She'll remember your patience during her moods, your stillness during her chaos, your calm when she tried to provoke you. And she'll finally see what she missed. that your calm wasn't indifference, it was leadership. You weren't ignoring her, you were guiding her. You weren't distant, you were composed. But in a world addicted to drama, composure looks like weakness until it's gone. Now she'll crave that composure in others, but it won't come naturally, because peace like yours isn't performed, it's earned through pain, purpose, and discipline. And you've mastered it. And as that truth dawns on her, her pride will slowly crumble. She'll stop justifying, stop pretending, stop blaming. There will come a moment, maybe years later, when she admits to herself that she ruined something pure, that she took for granted the one person who wanted her without conditions, that she mistook your patience for passivity, your forgiveness for weakness, your silence for surrender. And she'll realize something else too, that men like you don't come around twice. That once a man heals from the pain she caused, he becomes unreachable. Because what you taught her wasn't just about love, it was about consequences. You showed her that once a man learns self-respect, he never tolerates being disrespected again, not even by the one he once loved most. But that's the beautiful irony. You won't need her to realize any of this. You won't crave her apology, her validation, or her regret, because the peace you've built isn't dependent on anyone understanding your worth. You'll have reached a level of inner strength where closure isn't something you seek, it's something you embody. You'll understand that love was never meant to cage you, it was meant to refine you, and she was simply the catalyst for your transformation. What she called losing you was actually you finding yourself. And now your silence speaks volumes. It says, I don't hate you, I just outgrew you. And no matter how much she wishes she could undo the past, she can't, because time doesn't rewind for those who ignored love when it was offered freely. In her quietest moments, she'll scroll past your life, your accomplishments, your growth, maybe even your new love, and it'll sting, not because she wants to destroy it, but because she knows she doesn't belong there anymore. That's what true regret feels like. Not pain for what's gone, but awareness that you no longer fit into the peace you once disturbed. She'll smile at your photos, tell herself she's happy for you, but deep down she'll know. She'll know she wasn't replaced, she was released. You didn't move on to prove a point, you moved on because you found purpose, and that purpose became the line she'll never cross again. Because once you've healed, you become untouchable, not in arrogance but in alignment. There's a strange beauty in that kind of ending. It's not cinematic. There are no dramatic goodbyes, no last words, no grand gestures, just quiet acceptance. You both move forward, but only one of you grows. She learns the cost of taking love for granted. You learn the power of letting it go. She realizes that not all men are disposable. You realize that not all pain is punishment. Some of it is purification. And when you cross paths again, if life ever allows it, it won't be with bitterness. It'll be with calm recognition. Because the storm she once brought into your life became the reason you learned to walk in peace. And that in itself is the full circle of masculine healing, transforming heartbreak into higher ground. And one day, when she tells the story of you, she won't talk about the fights or the fallouts. She'll talk about your calm, your strength, your grace, the way you didn't react when she pushed you away, the way you disappeared without trying to be understood, the way your absence felt louder than anyone's presence. She won't say it, but she'll know. You were the man who loved her at her lowest and left her to protect your peace. And that realization will humble her, because she'll see that true masculinity doesn't need to dominate. It simply refuses to be disturbed. You were her lesson, her mirror, her reckoning. The kind of man who doesn't just pass through her life, he defines it. And so, the story ends not with revenge, but with revelation. You were never meant to stay. You were meant to awaken. You came into her life to show her what love without control feels like, what stability without words looks like, what presence without need means, and once she experienced that, she could never unsee it. That's why she'll never fully move on, because deep down, she knows she didn't lose you by accident. She lost you by choice, and choices have consequences. Yours was to protect your peace, hers was to test it. And now, as life comes full circle, you stand exactly where you're meant to be, calm, focused, and free. Because while she's still trying to make sense of what happened, you've already mastered the truth. The man who learns to walk away in silence doesn't lose, he ascends.